We are entering into the Frankie Say episode with Catherine Doyle Dancer from Doyle Manufacturing. You know, sometimes Catie, so I just said Catherine, but I know you as Catie. Can I call you Catie?
Yeah, I go by Catie.
Okay. I'm going to set my little timer here as I'm talking to you. Very excited to have you on. I say that a lot to a lot of my guests when I go, I'm so excited to have you on.
Yeah.
Oh, but I mean, I'm really excited to have you on. You are on the very short list at the very beginning. We had like a short list of 3 people. I had like Lee Lindsay, Aaron Napide, and Catie Doyle Dancer as my first 3 guests, and it did not go that way.
What happened?
I mean, COVID. No, I'm kidding.
That's awful.
No, I'm kidding.
It just started like a year ago. I went back. I did some research. I'm like, wow, I thought this was new, and I thought I made the short list. And then I was like, oh, he's been doing this for like a year now.
Yeah, a year. It started
awesome.
with Club Muddy, then evolved into Frankie Say. But so I've got a whole list of things to talk to you about, and we green roomed a little bit about the UN and agriculture, and this falls right into your wheelhouse. But the first thing I want to, the other thing that I did was I gave you a description of kind of how I feel.
Yeah.
Like you are, and I don't know if I should say that or not. Should I skip past that? Can I say it? Can I embarrass you? Okay, so
yeah, you can embarrass me.
I'm gonna embarrass you. So this is a non-political comment. Okay. It's just like the stature, just kind of like how you are, your being. When I first met you, and you told me in the green room that you met your husband 20 years ago in kindergarten or something like that. 20 years ago at St. Dominic's?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to get into some of these things. But I described you as like half Blake Lively, half Ivanka Trump. So you've got this business aspect and then this fashion aspect.
Yeah.
And you're very social.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes when I'm perusing social media feeds, which I don't do a lot because I don't like the news feeds that I see because they're very boring. Yeah. But the dancers always bring it hard. And, you know, so your mother, Robin.
Yes.
Who is she fitter than you?
Yeah.
Is she a beast?
She's a beast. She's way fitter than me right now. She's like at Q-Town Fitness every single day. She's a savage. Okay.
So any picture that if I ever see, and by the way, Robin, if you're listening, I don't know, but if you are, you know, your daughter's calling you savage. I'm just saying, look, super fit, and I'm kind of calling you out, saying like, I don't know who's fitter, but she just looks like she's putting in a ton of work. She just looks like she's killing it.
She is. She's a smoke show. I mean, really, she really is.
Yeah.
I know you can't say that. Like,
no.
I can comment on that because I just want to be 4 kids, and she keeps my children. Actually, she's with my children right now, but I want to be like that. Like, I want to be like lifting weights, like getting after it. Like, I think people put such a cap on that, their health and wellness and like what they can do. And I think, and she was like that too before she even went to Q-Town. She was like, oh, that's, you know, not for me. Like, I've only just like been a cardio person. I'm like, you were a D1 athlete. Like, that's not true.
D1 athlete, what sport?
Basketball.
Wow.
Yeah, she went to K-State.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
So did you play any sports in high school?
I ran track and I danced, and I was really into theater.
Okay, so in high school, did you study any kind of theater in high school?
Yeah.
What school?
We had a drama club, Palmyra. I went to Palmyra.
Yeah.
Not to like downgrade, but I was in all of the plays at Palmyra, high school, middle school. I did some stuff with QCT when I was younger, but my grandmother introduced me, my mom's mom introduced me into the arts, and it was kind of like I was like processing this too because, you know, I lived in California. I went there to pursue acting and theater. I mean, not to get too personal, but I was kind of like wondering like what drew me to that. And I think like I love it, but I think it was kind of like also a scapegoat for me. Like, my parents kind of went through 2 separations when I was younger, and I like just put all my energy into like wanting to pursue acting. Like, I didn't date guys. Even like when I lived in California. So like Max was like, when I met Max, I like prayed for Max. I'm like, I'm very independent, but I'm like, want a soulmate. And if you're not going to send me a soulmate, God, then I'm like, I'll join the Peace Corps. No, I'm just kidding. But I just.
Well, God did send you the soulmate.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, like big time.
Yeah.
He's a phenomenal guy.
Yeah, he is.
He's actually helping us right now. So he's with Happel.
Yeah.
And him and Steve Gramke and Chris Schering started that company. And so they're helping us right now. They're helping us build 6th Street. And Max particularly, we're working on a deal. I can't say right now who we're working out deals with, but he's a huge force. So you did a good job picking that guy. So I'm really so tell me about this theater, this acting thing. You moved to California?
Yeah, so I moved to California when I was 18. I was out there for 4 years, really with the goal to pursue acting. I have some distant family that lives in Long Beach and Huntington Beach, and then up north, like near San Francisco. So I moved in with my great aunt when I first moved out there. Went to Long Beach City College, and then like right away I got like a lead role in a local show, and then I did some shows in the LA area at like just some small like boutique theaters, and then I auditioned for like a conservatory, like South Coast Repertory's. I guess it was like a summer intensive, and got into that, and I got a little bit cocky, and I was like, I want to move to LA. I moved to LA, and then the tides just kind of changed.
How so?
Well, I was working 2 retail jobs, and I'm from the Midwest, so very much wear my heart on my sleeve, and I really didn't know the kind of smoke and mirrors aspect of Hollywood. You know, I really just had a passion for acting, and I felt like I had a real, I mean, everyone probably says that, but I felt like I had a real talent. And also I'm the type of person of like, if I'm coming into relationship with you, whether it's a coworker or, you know, whatever, like I'm gonna be a good friend. And it seemed like everyone was just in competition, and it just wasn't me to my core, and I didn't like that feeling. And I was really young too, so you know what I mean. I wasn't like as confident with who I was. So yeah, I was working at the Grove in LA. I was working at Coach. And
I know where that is.
Yeah, the Grove. Everyone knows where the.
Yeah.
You know, every single day Mario Lopez was shooting, whatever that, ET Entertainment, one of those shows like that. And I was working at Guess by Marciano and Coach, and just like trying to make it. I had joined like I was trying to find an agent at the time and building up like a acting reel, working with some different like colleges that were doing like their, you know.
Did you work for, you worked for Marciano?
Yeah.
Yeah, Marciano was Guess.
Yeah, yeah.
For those that don't know. Marciano's up.
Yeah.
Like higher, right.
Yeah.
I did trunk shows for Marciano.
Really?
Yeah. Downtown,
Whoa.
yeah. I did
world.
like a year of it downtown Chicago.
Really?
Yeah. And it's not something I tell a lot of people because, but it's like, so I had long hair and I worked out all the time. I didn't drink alcohol for like 2.5 years, and I just got super ripped. And then I did, without going into detail, we should probably stop talking about this because I don't want to even go into it. I don't even know if my wife knows that. Which, by the way, Rachel and I celebrate 10 years of being married today.
Oh.
Right now.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Happy anniversary, Rachel.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was taking some of the time. Max and I are celebrating 5 years this month.
You are?
Marriage.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So I want to talk about too. So you're in California, and you're trying to pursue all of those things. Well, not all of those things. You're trying to pursue acting.
Yeah.
But
trying to figure out life too. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So what year did you move back to Quincy?
It would have been like 2012. I would have probably moved back around that time, 2011, 2012. I was out there just about 4 years, and I know that's where I met you because I didn't go right into working for the company. I brushed up on some econ classes, and I got a job at the Abbey, and I got a job at the Buckle, and I was just kind of like also just trying to get integrated with. I had been gone, just kind of the social aspect too, knowing I wanted to work at Doyle, but I needed to do me for a moment. Yeah,
it's like kind of like taking like a me sabbatical.
Yeah.
Where like you've got all. I mean, so this is what's kind of interesting. You know how we were talking about, and kind of in your description of when we were green rooming about things to talk about, because there's so many things to talk about.
Yeah.
I mean, so many, and to fit everything into a pod like this, can't do that.
Right.
So we have to kind of pick and choose. But you talk about community a lot, and a lot of times where I think one thing that people like you and I and like other really good, I shouldn't put myself in there because I don't put myself in the same landscape as you. I think that what you are doing is very special. Building your business, building the business, because it's not just your business, it's the business. And also somebody else started that business.
Right.
And now you are stepping in to try to build a legacy. Right. And finish the legacy.
Yeah.
And maybe other people can slide into those roles, either kids or friends or business associates, and it's a big deal. So when you came back, I do remember, and please, I apologize for this next thing, but sometimes I like to make this joke. It's not really a joke. You know how I talk about how, I've told you this before, how Rachel was working out at the Y and she saw Sam.
Yes.
And she's working out with Jenny Nobis.
Yes.
And then she tells Jenny Nobis, she goes, you have to meet this guy. So when I was working out at Q-Town.
Yes.
So I'm watching the Tyranny Craigs and I'm watching the dancers and I saw Max. And I think I told you in a text, I'm like, you really should join Q-Town CrossFit.
I think you did.
I did. Because Max was there.
I know. I giggled in Tyranny's pod because I went home and I told Max, I'm like, Frankie's taking credit for setting hustle. It's so great.
And I have nothing to. I have
classic Frankie.
I have nothing to do with it, but it's funny to talk about it, and it's fun.
Yeah.
It makes me feel good for 2 seconds that I contributed, even though I did nothing. You didn't name any of your kids after me. That's kind of bull, but whatever. Oh, what are the names? So
you want to know my kids' names?
Yeah.
So Max and I, we have 2 children. We've been married 5 years this year. We have Bodhi, who's 3, and Pax, our little girl, who's 2.
Okay. Bodhi and Pax. Those are great names. Pax, does PAX, does that mean peace?
It does.
Okay, was that on purpose?
It was all, so it was very thought out. But
where does Bodhi come from?
Bodhi, we just,
it's cute.
I liked it. And what's the movie with Keanu Reeves and Patrick Swayze and
wait, the skydiving
Point
movie
Break or something?
Yeah.
Max has thought of that. Everyone's like, Max thought I wanted to name it after that movie because his name was Bodhi, and I'm like, no, that's not it. I just really like the name Bodhi.
Yeah.
And then Lee, he's Bodhi Lee after Max's dad was Lee, but then Max's great grandfather, he was Samuel Packwood, and so when we found out we were pregnant with baby 2, I was like, it was one of the names that we had listed as Alexander, because Max is Alexander Packwood, and calling him Pax. And we loved just the name Pax. So when we found out it was a girl, we're like, we're going to stick with Pax. And then I'm Catherine Josephine. I'm named after both of my great-grandmothers. And so I wanted to keep the Joe in there because I'm Catie Joe, my mom's Robin Joe, my grandma's Mary Joe, my great-grandmother was Josephine. Anyway, I'm like, I found out Pax meant peace. So I'm like, we're going to do Joy. Joy. So it's Pax Joy Peace.
Oh my gosh.
Joy. She's an angel, let me tell you.
Pax Joy Dancer. Wait, the dancers, you guys just pick really good names. Like Sam and Jenny's is Star.
Star Zia.
Star Zia?
Yeah.
Oh, wait, is Zia the middle name?
Yeah. How cool is that?
Star Zia?
Star Zia.
Oh my gosh. So if you take away the middle name there, it's Star Dancer.
Yeah.
Okay, name a better. That's the best name. It's not the best name because Pax is the best name ever. No, I'm kidding. There's a big competition of the names. Our third child, we didn't know the gender of the third one.
Yeah.
And we picked Press, boy or girl.
I love that.
And then wound up to be a girl, which I'm thankful for that.
Yeah.
Because because Press isn't short for Preston or anything like that, just Press.
Or Presley, it's just Press.
Or Press, it's just Press.
Yeah.
Yeah, so anyway. But also, your kids, so Pax and Bodhi, they're not going to have people kids in their class named those names.
Right.
They will not.
There's going to be some Brodies. He gets a lot of Brody, but it's, Bodhi.
Okay. Okay, so you come back and 2012-ish, and you start working for Doyle at some point in time.
Yeah. And that time was so I did an internship for a year, and I learned everything. I worked in every single department. I learned how to weld. I became a glorified truck driver. I drove all over the country by myself, pulling equipment to trade shows. My father sent me without, I still don't know how to
Did you have to get a CDL?
No.
Okay, that's good.
Just pulling it, behind a pickup and having a fertilizer spreader behind me, flying through the Smoky Mountains. Probably have no tread on the tires when I get
Really?
to North Carolina. Yeah, and I don't even know how to back up the piece of equipment without probably jackknifing. So I would have to like strategically plan where I would stop to get gas. But just, yeah, so I did a little bit of everything. And then actually Gordon Forbes, shout out Gordon at John Wood Workforce Development Center. He reached out to my dad actually and kind of passed it to me, but they started doing, the Workforce Development Center started doing like business courses and a lot of like lean manufacturing. And this is all very, very foreign to us because very mom and pop, family ran company, but we were going through a lot of growth. So I was really, I just kind of got done with this internship. I really picked up a lot of the marketing stuff. I was rebuilding our website, and he called and I was like, I think we should do this lean manufacturing course. And then that led into more kind of management development, and then that led into kind of a concern I had about human resources. We really didn't have a human resources really firm, like foundation of things, policies, procedures, all the things. So kind of really just head first dove into that with the intention of putting someone in that position, and it roundabout came down that if we're going to kind of redefine Doyle in our culture, like it needed to be me that did that. And so, yeah.
So before I go to the next thing, you know how you mentioned that sometimes you listen to all of these different podcasts? Sometimes in the podcast, they will break for a potty break.
Yeah.
Do you have any problems doing that?
No.
Because I am parched. I forgot to get something to drink.
I failed to bring something to drink.
Is the production manager here? Can we cut this and resume?
Yeah.
Boom.
A&B Properties is Quincy's largest apartment rental company with hundreds of units available. They offer short-term and long-term rentals with 1 up to 4 bedroom apartments. A&B Properties meets the needs of its tenants with care, compassion, and a quality of service that exceeds expectations. A&B Properties also has a convenient tenant app for you to do your payments or make repair requests. Give them a call today. A&B Properties, 217-919-8080, Quincy.
Okay, so we're back. Okay, so you were talking about your start getting back into Doyle.
Yeah.
And so so do you guys do titles? Is titles a thing?
Yeah, well, it's kind of been, we've had to been forced to hey, Doyle family, you have to have a title. Typically it's we just wear all the hats and.
Whose idea was that? Which one of your brothers made you have a title?
No, I think it was more of just, again, we've been doing a lot of, we've hired a lot of really great people that have been in industry, that have come in to help support, but also where we kind of lack, we didn't have, a lot of other companies, a rule where you have to go work for another corporation before you can.
You did not have that rule?
No, before you can come work in your family business. No, it's like a school of hard knocks. We're learning on the fly. If you see, that's kind of where I was thrown into human resources. I didn't go to school for human resources. I like people.
Do you guys have some type of, with family businesses, so how many employees does Doyle have?
We have about 230.
230?
Yeah.
Okay, so I see, I'm pointing the wrong way. There's Doyle out there on Broadway. Then there's
which is really just, we don't do any production there.
Right, but I just see signs.
Right.
Because for people who are driving by there, do you sell stuff out of that Broadway location?
No.
Okay, is it like a placeholder? Is it just for looks or something?
It's definitely not for looks if you've drove by.
Well,
I think there's just, 65 years of memorabilia.
Is that what's over there?
And there's a lot of scrap over there. There's still some pre-existing buildings that are over there, but over the, we've expanded. Over in Quincy, for instance, for all the square footage that we had, it was around 140,000 square foot of manufacturing space under several different roofs. Our new facility was around 240 when we first opened. Now with all the expansions that we've done, it's just under 500,000 square foot.
You guys are building like crazy over there.
Well, we've taken down, so something interesting that we have done, so we work a lot with the Amish as well. They help erect a lot of our buildings and take down a lot of our buildings. So we actually used 3 of like the superstructures that we had over here in Quincy and just use that structure and use them for some of the outbuildings that we have now at the main facility.
So are any of those pieces of equipment on 61, are any of them rusting out there? I feel like you need to run through this inventory faster.
No, not with the grade of stainless that it is.
Okay.
Because it's 3 or 4, it's a higher grade. Now it will, because of dry fertilizer, like it'll corrode, but no, because it's a higher grade stainless and it gets acid wash and all that kind of stuff, it's not gonna. Before
we get into the UN and how they're screwing around with the agriculture stuff, because we're gonna drop some bombs.
Yeah.
Okay. The proverbial bomb. We're not dropping actual bombs. Because we're not neocons.
Yeah.
Or maybe you are, but I'm not. We're gonna drop like nice bombs on like how like the difference between being patriotic for your country and like really wanting like taking care of like the American farmer.
Yeah.
And the UN getting in there and saying like you will die of starvation. I'm making jokes.
Yeah.
But it's not funny because it's
Right.
really serious.
Right.
But before we get into that, what is your title?
VP of People Support.
Okay. That is, you can drive a Doyle truck right through the middle of those parameters. That is a wide VP of People Support. That's everything. I mean, so is it, when you say people support, okay, this is what I think it means, and then you're going to tell me where I'm wrong, okay? It means all of your people, all internally. It means your like internal employees, which are, or your internal customers, which are your employees. It's your actual customers. It's the people out there that want to buy from Doyle but haven't yet. It's the people who have purchased from Doyle and they need to talk to somebody. It's all of the internal, external. It's all of the people, which is, I don't know how you feel about human capital and like and labor and things like that, but it's, to me, it's number one.
Absolutely.
Number one. I mean, the product isn't just a piece of metal.
Yeah.
And this is, these aren't high crime misdemeanors of just of what is it, when you're just talking like high, like right now it sounds like I'm talking high, but I'm not getting to the meat of what it is. I'm just like full of crap right now because I'm thinking, what does this mean? What does it mean to be inside your business, knowing that you are in charge of the people and supporting everybody?
Yeah.
What does it mean? Like, what's happening?
Well, it is. I mean, it's just that, right? I feel like in some aspects, it's all of what you said, but where I'm at in my career right now is taking care of the people that are employed by Doyle.
Okay, got it.
And of course, I get in with the I work on the sales side of things, the marketing side of things. You know, as a part business owner, you're constantly in the know, working through all of those things. But the people aspect and the culture and how we treat people, you know, how we I mean, I don't want to sound soft, but care for people. Okay. But also how we support people.
Are you guys a union shop?
We're not.
Okay.
We're not a union shop, and
so that means maybe, my goodness. So maybe this is where I make the joke. Don't get mad at me. But maybe you have to care about people more when you're not a union shop. Maybe you have to try harder sometimes. By the way, I think unions are good in some aspects. We are also not a union shop over at our place of business over there. But how does it work? So if somebody has an HR problem, do they go to you or do you have a staff?
No, so I did HR by myself for 7+ years, all the hiring, firing, all of the due diligence within human resources. We have a human resources manager now. She's absolutely wonderful, and she's brought a lot of great influence to the company. And then we also have an HR business partner. So she's just come in this year and is helping to, assist from, the people level. And then the HR manager and myself, we work a lot on just like future planning. She came in kind of end of career, which was really couple things, like I would tell her this too, like it was really intimidating to me, like when we were like, this is like we want to hire her because of all the experience that she had. And I went through some imposter syndrome of like, I haven't done anything, I don't know anything. And I've learned the direct opposite by bringing her on, but it's awesome to be able to collaborate with somebody that has the same, I guess, vision about people, but also being able to express and be creative and strategic and have someone to support me in human resources to help drive that, right? And whatever we're doing, whether that's we're working on.
When did you hire her?
She's been with us for a year.
Can we say her name?
Christy Taylor.
Okay. And so take her out of it for just a second. Before she got here, was there ever a situation in which something's happened on the floor, something's happening inside the business, where all of a sudden you have to get involved? Like, I'm not asking for like, don't give me the details and the people's names or anything, but does it ever come to you and you're like, oh boy, hey people.
Still does every day.
It does? Okay.
Oh yeah. Because I mean, at the end of the day, like if there's I'm still making the decisions, right? Like some of those hard decisions I'm not 100% sure, like if you're meaning like if we're letting somebody go or something like that.
Just
but
anything that can happen. So you over 200 people.
Right.
Something's going to happen.
Yeah.
Like every day there's something.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And then in a week's time.
Yeah.
I mean, even if they're like, so sometimes there's like low-level blow-ups inside a company of 200 people.
Yeah.
So I've been inside businesses where, had 240 people.
Yeah.
And so now I've brought it all the way down to 20. I've only got 20 people to deal with. So what's it like? I mean, you have had an issues like what you said every day.
So I'll tell you this. I guess this is what kind of like what I'm hearing from you and like what I'm taking out of this. Because I was thrown really into the fire of things, and it's a very male-driven business. I'm in a very male-dominant family, agriculture as well. I wasn't necessarily thrown to the wolves, but I put myself out there, and so I like outwardly I feel like in front of even my employees have failed a lot. But the difference with that too is that I've also been there a lot, and I've also like fought tooth and nail to really blood, sweat, and tears to make the Doyle culture what it is today. And that's only happened by being here with my employees.
Okay. Yes.
It is definitely is radically changed, but like I've and caring for my employees, if someone wants to talk to me about their an issue that they're having or a financial trouble, like even though I might not be able to help them or I'm not going to give them legal advice, like I'm going to be there for them, because at the end of the day we're all people, right? I don't want anyone to sit next to me and be like, oh, it's Catie Doyle. Like I don't.
Right.
And I could say that for the rest of my family members too. Like my brothers still go out and weld on the floor if it's needed, or help out on the farm or whatever it might be. And that's, I think the difference is because, and where I broke some of those barriers is because I'm there and I'm just having very vulnerable conversations sometimes with people.
Yeah.
And also letting people know where I've failed, and just being kind of like stripping that wounded pride and being like, hey, I messed up here, but we're going to make it right. And making sure that I'm advocating for both sides. I'm advocating for like, hey, I got to have my business cap on, especially when we're like, if we're having to let go of somebody.
You know what? You just nailed it. Advocating for both sides. Yeah. It's like, okay, if you've got somebody who works, so there's the hierarchy, there's the organizational chart. Yeah. And that can be real deep or it can be more lateral depending on the org.
Yeah.
And when you're advocating, if one of your people, either, do you ever find yourself when you're talking to people, like maybe if you're their boss, but using terms like we and meaning it, where you've like, no, I'm your coworker. Yeah, I know I'm the boss, but also I'm your coworker. I'm here with you.
Yeah.
Life is short. And we have to do this together. Mm-hmm. But advocating for both sides, I think, is kind of a key. Because it's like, you have to do what's best for the business.
Right.
And at the end of the day, you have to do that. But then also, if the person that you're working with, if they think that you're advocating for them, even though they know they're talking to Catie Doyle, okay, great.
Yeah.
And that's tough. That's tough for them. That's tough for you. But if they think or they have any kind of feeling like you're advocating, like what you just said. You said it perfectly. Advocating for both sides.
Yeah.
Is that something that comes naturally to you? Or is that something that you had to learn?
I think it's something that comes naturally, or it's something that has been learned over time. I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, I think that's something that definitely comes natural, or else I would never have kind of naturally, gravitated towards human resources. At first, I'm like, I'm going to be doing sales. Cash just got back from Australia. That was supposed to be me, right? Like he's doing like some international sales and things like that, but I'm definitely where I'm supposed
Where's
to
Cash
be.
in the birth order?
He's the baby. He's our marketing and tech guy now. I mean,
What's it like working with your brothers? Is that a trip?
it's amazing.
Is it?
Yeah.
So, does it?
It really is. Yeah.
What are corporate office meetings like? Let's just say it's just like don't give away any family secrets.
Yeah.
Don't give away the secret sauce. But does it go back and forth between being hilarious and awful?
1,000%. But it's like, again, because you do hear the statistics all the time, like 4 generations and like family-owned business and things like that. But we all we're all in totally different segments of the company. Yes, there's overlap. Yes, we help each other strategize and we do everything as a collective. But like our executive Monday meetings, we've got our operation managers in there, and
Are they every Monday? Mm-hmm. What time?
1:30.
Ooh, after lunch.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's Monday. Like you're getting in. You're trying to get the week ramped up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, 1:30 is better than 8.
Yeah.
Because then you can
Well, we have a managers meeting in the morning, and then we've got so then 1:30, and then just kind of going through like, hey, our operations managers go through kind of their week prior, go over some old business, new business, and yeah. We're just very passionate people.
What does that mean?
And, well, we know how to, I feel like, push each other's buttons. And
Who
it's
is-
more so than anything now, I feel like it's like my dad and my brother Colt, like, they know how to trigger each other. But I will say this, and how my dad always says it, and I have to remind them, which is really fun sometimes, like, we're all on the same team. Like, even though we're getting passionate about something or our view, like, it all results back to like what we're all trying to achieve, and we all have the same mission, at Doyle. Like, but it's sometimes. I mean, sometimes I have to just like even was it this morning we had a we have like a product design group steering committee that we do, and we had a family meeting after it, and there was a kind of a confrontation, and I'm kind of the mediator.
Are you the mediator?
Yeah. Now I've also been the person that has been triggered before, but more so now, I also go to.
Are you the peacemaker?
Yeah, that's like my toxic trait, though.
Toxic?
Yeah.
So.
Meaning, I don't need to be like the rescuer all the time in situations.
Do you find yourself okay? So you said male-driven business, male-driven family.
Well, I meant like.
No.
Sorry. Yeah. I mean, it's like that's.
And I'm not trying to make this like.
I don't.
No.
Yeah.
No, I'm not trying to make this like a sexist thing.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah. But that is. Yeah.
No. Okay. Like for example, my son Valentino goes to St. Peter's. Got a detention yesterday from his teacher. Okay. And Valentino deserved it. Okay. When he gave me, generally when he comes to see, he's been getting into trouble a lot lately. Okay. And Valentino means brave. Mm-hmm. Okay. And so when you're talking about your kids, Valentino.
Yeah.
Oh, he's such a man.
How old is he now?
He's 8. He just turned 8. He's a young 8-year-old.
Yeah.
But he's old for his class.
Okay.
He's in 2nd grade.
Okay.
We did not, Valentino, we did not hold you back. We sprang you forward, my good son. You will thank me your senior year in high school when you get to do it all over again.
Yes.
Just being older. But anyway, he was defending the honor of his little sister. He was defending her honor. And there's a kid who wouldn't move at the lunch table, which, Mrs. Reichert, if you're listening, I agree with you. Valentino is in the wrong, and he deserved a detention because we support. But my point is this. It's like the men have to defend, like the boys can defend the girls, but I feel like tell me if I'm doing this right. Do you ever feel like you have to take someone's side, or if you see a split in decisions, do you feel like you have to go in there and like sew that up? What are you trying to, what do you, you said toxic. Do you mean that in like a loving way?
Like my toxic trait? Yeah, I mean in the most loving way, but sometimes, I've just become like the rescuer in things, whether that's personal or business related when it comes to family dynamic. So, okay. But yeah, like I did it today, where I can see, for instance, if we're not going to solve this, if we're not going to come up with a solution, or we're not going to solve the problem around the conference table, then I would much rather have a conversation to say, who do we need to have this conversation with? Or if someone did something wrong, or out of the process, or went to the wrong person and it messed up the process or whatever, then having the conversation of what should have been done instead of complaining about how we went about doing something. You know what I mean? It doesn't really help the cause.
Right.
Like it's not going to really make anything better for the next time, or it's already been done. I'm kind of like, hey, let's come up with, if we don't have a solution, let's get the people in place that are going to be able to help us with this solution, and then let's move forward. Like we've got too much going on.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
And so I'm kind of like, hey, I don't want to waste my energy, and I don't want you guys to waste your energy on.
You're talking about high EQ stuff. So all of the
into high EQ right now.
Okay, yeah. So like high EQ, those are the engineers. Those are the guys that understand the when this chemical comes into contact with this chemical. This is how, do you guys acid etch any of your stuff? Do you guys have eco paints? Like, how do you guys paint your? Do you guys paint your equipment, or is it just steel or?
It's mainly steel, and then we outsource the.
You outsource. Well, yeah, that's smart. That's smart, by the way.
The paint, because when we had the big fire, that was our paint and powder coat booth that burnt down. So then at that point we were building everything 409, which is a lesser grade of stainless, and then we went to all 304. That's why we don't paint anything.
Okay.
Because it's a higher grade.
Ooh, you're using 304?
Yes.
That's expensive.
Yeah, we're the Cadillac.
You guys are the Cadillac. So in the green room, walked in, you got here before I did. You got here a few minutes before. I wasn't late, but almost. And you were reading something, and you were you were bristling. You were on your phone, and you were reading something. Mm-hmm. Generically speaking, what were you reading?
I was reading a girl that I follow social media. I was scrolling social media waiting for you, but a girl that I follow who's a rancher in Utah, is a big advocate for local farmers and ranchers, reposted something that was happening on the Hill in DC, I think it was yesterday, about the UN coming out with a statement that they're going to push forward at, I don't know if it's probably not called the World Economic Forum, but some type of futurist forum about pushing globalized agriculture. So how I take that is agriculture being controlled by one entity like the UN.
Yeah, like a centralized.
And if you're aware of Agenda 21 and things like that, like that's kind of what,
Does it?
Private, I think that kind of goes into property and land and what farmers can do and what they can grow, and at least that's how I take it and what I've understood. I only know so much, but
yeah. So does that strike fear into your heart, or anger, or what? Because where you and I live, we're all you and I are both. You're reading what you're reading. I'm reading what I'm reading. We're in the Midwest.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that what you're doing for a living is you're building equipment for ag. Right?
Yes.
So it matters to you how this whole thing goes down.
Yeah, and we also farm. We have our own farm operation too. So,
really? I did not know that. Mm-hmm. So you're reading this, and this idea of globalization, as opposed to this is a fascinating discussion in terms of globalism and nationalism. Mm-hmm. And I feel have you ever heard about this idea of like nationalism versus globalism, and I'll kind of give you my take on it, and you can jump in wherever you want. But essentially, when I was a kid, if you were patriotic, that was good. And today, I think being patriotic is good. And I know we're moving towards a globalist society. The world's getting smaller with all of the tech. Did you ever hear?
Like that.
Did you ever hear that story about back in the 30s or 40s or 50s, something like that? Somebody had predicted that a woman can walk into the middle of like Tokyo, and she can send her thoughts down through her brain, out through her fingers, and inject the light. And another woman in the middle of Times Square in New York can receive her message at the speed of light instantaneously. And this is what people were saying. And they said, that's weird. I'll make the case right now that happens. What you do is, I'm saying we are partially cyborg organisms where we are holding onto these smartphones all the time.
Yeah.
And if you are in Times Square and somebody, one of your brothers or somebody wants to send a message from Tokyo, they can send it down through their fingers, put it on the screen, and it flies at 186,000 miles per second, zips through there at the speed of light, and you get the message instantly.
Yeah.
This is what's happening. This has made the world smaller.
Yeah.
So it really depends on how you want to frame it, because it sounds like something that's not real, but it's all in the way that we describe it. It's all in the delivery.
Yeah.
So this idea of nationalism versus globalism, on one hand, I do want the whole planet to be healthy and get along, and I want all the wars to stop. I'm for world peace. I don't know about you.
Yeah.
I don't know how to get it. I think I know what the next steps are.
Yeah.
But I don't know exactly. I mean, the next steps I think are extremely controversial, and half the world's for it, and half the world's against it.
Right.
For the world peace. But when you read things about the UN moving in that direction, is it something? What do you think about? What is your first initial gut reaction about these types of moves?
Well, I mean, especially with agriculture, I think about the future of our business too. I think about our employees. I think about how that could long-term affect us, if in any way. I also look at, it just seems like as a country, it'd be like we're selling out. Where like I almost look at like that as from a business perspective, like that we're selling out to a foreign country. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, okay. So one of the things about America, and for better or for worse, we're back-to-back World War champions. Okay, and I hate to say it, and this is, and you do not have to agree with this, but generally speaking, listen, if someone is like very nationalistic, so when you're watching the Olympics, well, here I'll finish my thought. This is where I get in all kinds of trouble, but I'm really happy to do it. If you see somebody flying an American flag in the back of a pickup truck, I kind of know how they vote. Yeah. And if I see somebody that's got a Ukrainian sticker and wearing a mask in a Prius by themselves with nobody else in the car, I kind of know how they vote. So there's been this weird split due to how the machine works. So for example, this upcoming presidential election, I think you're either for the machine or you're against the machine. Yeah. It's not about like what political party, what club you're in. Yeah. It's you're for the machine. Yeah. It's like you're for, the New World Order, which by the way, I'm not making this up. 15 years ago, Catie, this was a conspiracy theory. The World Economic Forum, the UN moving towards, we want a centralized location for all ag, and here are the rules. Yeah. And here's who gets to own the land in Palmyra. We're going to divvy it up between the Chinese and maybe some Americans. And then they get to it's wild. You fight the PE firms and fight all the venture capitalism out there. But when I was a kid, you could be patriotic, and you can be patriotic now. But as far as being like a nationalist or a globalist, I lean more towards nationalist. For example, when I'm watching the Olympics. Did you watch any of the Olympics?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I didn't watch the opening ceremony, just heard a lot about the opening ceremony.
Oh, it was awesome. It was awesome.
Was it? I didn't,
oh, yeah.
I didn't
it was
watch,
killer.
I didn't watch that.
It was
but
art-filled.
I heard it was very art-filled.
So when I'm watching our teams and all of our Olympic teams play the other countries, I don't have a globalist view. I don't want all the teams to tie perfectly for gold.
Right.
I'm an assassin. I have a killer instinct. I'm a nationalist.
I'm a competitor.
I want our country to win.
Yeah.
That's it. So I understand how a more fully evolved being would want the New World Order to kind of engulf, maybe pull America down a little bit. So, because, there's always a top dog. I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah.
Humans, if we're not the top dog, somebody else is going to be the top dog.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm more comfortable. I'm very biased towards America.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it certainly does feel like, though, we're like in the middle of either like a paradigm shift. Like, I don't know if it's going to go forward, but I feel like if we're, if it goes one way, it almost seems like it's going to be like hyperspeed towards, that globalist initiative more.
there's
and I don't
this.
think a lot of people
Yeah.
really, that's too deep, right? So I think there's a lot of surface level things that we get tied into, or people get really passionate about, which is great to be passionate about. But then I don't think people are really looking at the bigger picture sometimes as the country as like a business or being the top dog anymore.
Well,
it's like I think those are things that people aren't really talking about in the media,
The federal government is probably pound for pound the largest corporation in U.S. history. And it doesn't run its books very well. Mm-hmm. There's 36 trillion in debt. And you've got these people that they want to continue that path, which, by the way, I'm not advocating for one person or another. I'm saying that cannot happen.
Right.
Like, for example, not only do you have to balance the books, but you probably have to cut spending by 1% a year for the next 10 years and let everything just catch up. I mean, I don't think either side would go for that. Mm-mm. I don't think they would because it cuts into their pockets. But somebody has to step forward. And even now, like, I know who I'm going to vote for, but putting that aside, I don't even think that person's going to fix it. I don't think that person says that they're going to fix it. But then you got the other person that says, not only are we not going to fix it, but we're going to put pedal to the metal and keep on going. Mm-hmm. And I think that is madness.
Yeah.
What do you think is in store for the next 10 years? Do you think that our country will correct someday?
I mean, to be honest with you, Frankie, I'm so confused about to even think about what the next 10 years would look like. I mean, with how things are going right now. Like, it's kind of scary to think about. I will tell you this, though, more than ever, I am so thankful to live where I live. And I'm thankful to live in a rural community, living once in LA and never dreaming about or wanting to come back to Palmyra or Quincy, but I'm so thankful for where I live. I'm so thankful that my brothers are hunters and gatherers. And more than ever, I'm like, man, I should probably learn how to homestead a little bit. Because honestly, I just don't want anything to do with it. I just want to live. If it's going to get crazy, I don't like how I feel if it goes in this direction. Like, I just want to be, I don't want to think about it because it's kind of scary.
Don't you feel, okay, so do you ever feel like you're pulled between being like irritated where you live in a place like this, but also feel like, oh my gosh, long term, next 10, 15, 20 years raising kids? Do you ever feel like, oh crap, I made the right choice?
100%.
Isn't that a weird feeling?
Yeah.
So Rachel is from Michigan, and I always make the joke like she's trying to get out of here. And she's from Michigan, and she moved to Quincy, and she felt like kind of maybe her husband, it's not that I trapped her here, but like I make the joke that we're kind of trapped together.
Yeah.
But while we're here, we do good stuff.
That's what it's about.
Maybe not my letter to the editor. Maybe that wasn't that good enough. But I'm saying, you stay here and you try to raise kids.
Yeah.
So you're running a business along with other people. I mean, as long as even though you're on the pod and they're not, it might feel like you're running the business, but really, truthfully, collectively, at my business down the street, there isn't one person running the business. There's multiple people.
Multiple people.
And
so it is at Doyle too.
yeah, and it's if we're going to be here in this area, and you had made a mention about Palmyra, being Palmyra, but I used to make fun of Missouri drivers in Quincy. I used to make fun. I can't do that. I would say, you guys live in misery. Missouri. You live in misery. I used to make fun. I would never make fun anymore. I live in Illinois.
Yeah.
So do you live in Illinois or Missouri?
I live in Illinois.
Okay. So
now.
Yeah. So do you ever, it's such a weird thing, like living in Illinois. It makes sense that you would live in Illinois just because, like, for whatever. But Palmyra, let me tell you something about Palmyra. Besides their wrestling team being awesome and Hannibal's wrestling team being awesome. And I think Hannibal's soccer team is beating QND now and beating QHS. This madness has to stop. Hannibal, stop beating us in soccer. Cut it out. You're not supposed to be good in those kinds of sports. You're supposed to be good in, like, football and wrestling and basketball. That's it. Those are the only 3 sports you're allowed to be good at. But those places over there, I cherish these places because that kind of like the Hannibal, the Palmyra, the Kirksville, the Northeast Missouri people, the Keokuk up to Fort Madison, up into Iowa, it's still always better than Chicago, even though in LA. Even though, do you feel like, don't you wish you could just snap your fingers and, like, be downtown? Like, what if you could go to any city right now and hang out for a weekend?
Yeah.
Where would it be?
A city?
City. Is that too hard?
I just don't have a desire, I guess. I mean, like, depends on what I'm doing, Frankie. I mean,
So this is like, you don't have to worry about transportation, and your job is here and it's safe.
Yeah.
You're working for Doyle. You've got your husband, you got the kids. You can snap your fingers and go party in a city with your family. Are you saying that you're really drawing a blank right now?
No, I mean, like, there's many places that I would like to revisit, but, like, I'm at the stage also that, like, there's so much else to see besides a city. Like, I would rather go, like, go to some national parks.
Okay,
Go
fair.
to, like, Garden of the Gods. Go to, like,
Where's that?
I don't know, like Utah
Okay.
or something. I don't know.
Utah.
Utah.
Yeah.
Lake Powell,
Okay.
Yosemite.
Okay.
But
I'm such a city boy.
I think
projecting
New York,
on you.
honestly.
Okay.
I think New York. I would love to go back to New York. Senior year, our dance team, the seniors, we danced in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. That's the only time I've been to New York. But it was like one of those things that you have a schedule of events. It's rigid.
The Thanksgiving parade?
Yeah, the Macy's.
The big one?
Mm-hmm. Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, and I loved it. And so I feel like I would really enjoy going back to New York and doing New York, 20 years later.
So so we're almost done with this pod. So just give you a heads up. So if there's anything that you really want to talk about, now's the time to do it because we're almost done. But going full circle here, we started the pod kind of talking about California, and when you were there, you were there for 4 years. That's a long time to be there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Did it go by quick or?
It went by. I mean, now hindsight, it went by so quick.
It's like another life, right?
Yeah.
So
many parking tickets. I got my car stolen once. A lot of stuff. I went through a lot, learned a lot.
Oh, that's so cool.
It was really
cool. That's so cool that you got your car stolen. Yeah, I got. I have a story about that too. That's kind of boring, but not as cool as yours. But so now, when I say, like, what kind of city?
Yeah.
You're like, you said Yosemite, Lake Powell, like somewhere in Utah.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you feel like, what percentage city girl are you, and what percentage country girl are you?
Well, Frankie, I don't really like to put myself in a box, but I would say that I've always been, like, march to the beat of my own drum. Like, I like to go to cities, but again, I've been there. So I'm like, I would say if I'm looking at, that's hard. I don't
I'm asking
know,
hard
like
questions.
10%, like 10% city.
Okay. Yeah.
90%.
You know what I'm doing right now?
That's not true because, again, like, That's I don't know. That's a hard one.
I'm doing something really bad.
You're projecting.
I'm projecting and then trying to put baby in the corner. That's what I'm trying to do. It's not fair to you.
Okay,
I'm really sorry.
Do you wish you were still in the city?
Yes.
Okay, that's where it's coming from.
Yeah, I'm projecting. What I'm doing is this is not fair. What I'm doing.
Chicago.
Yeah. Yeah.
See, I love everything about going and staying in a fun, swanky hotel for a couple nights and seeing, some national monuments and things like that, or going to a Broadway show, whatever. Great. But I don't have that desire right now, just with how the country is.
I totally understand. Which, by the way, Tampa, Austin, Charlotte. What I really like?
I'd go back to Charleston.
Charleston.
I'd go back to Charleston.
Okay, that final answer?
Yeah. Final answer, Charleston.
So you know what is kind of neat, and I've brought this up before, but there's something really interesting about blue cities and red states. Okay, now blue cities and blue states, generally, crap.
Yeah.
But blue cities and red states, there's something in Charleston. People who live in Charleston, guess what? They're not leaving. No way. And people who come from the Midwest and go to Charleston, they'll write. They're not coming back. It is totally wackadoo. People talk about that place all the time. Mm-hmm. There's just something special about it. I like the fact that you went from that LA girl to like hardcore, like tri-state area, country family woman.
Yeah, it took some time it's just kids, being married. But also I feel like too, I've really been kind of, we're always talking about purpose of things and where I can do the most good. And I'm like, wow, I don't need to be in a city to do that. I don't need to, and also just not always focusing on myself too, right? I think you learn that a lot too after having kids. There's more of this picture here than myself or just even my husband. But I feel like I have so many people that I can influence in a positive way, from the people that work for Doyle, people that are customers of Doyle, but also being, doing good in our community, and helping in that way. I feel like that's there's something about me that wants to give back in that. I don't want people just to see that I'm a business leader or this or that. I want to be the hands and feet of Jesus. I want to do good things. And it starts with, and I have so many people to, that's a lot of people, and I feel like if more people did that, focused on their people, and that, sometimes people want to reach everyone in the whole world, and I think that's great, but also I think there's something about, doing the most good where you're at, and that's kind of, where I'm at right now. I'm sometimes I make fun of myself, because I have a hard time saying no, because when I, volunteer to do something, or I'm asked to be on a board or whatever, I feel like it's hard for me to just be that person that doesn't, throw myself right into the thick of it.
No, every time that I see you kind of out in the community or we cross paths, you always seem to be a very community driven person. And I think our discussion today, further, aside from my projection that you're you really want to be in Austin, on 6th Street,
You're gonna be
I'm
trunk shows for Marciano.
Oh my gosh! You know what? We are at the time break. I want to thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah,
I really appreciate it, and I don't know. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah.